Hey, it is the Pete Sousa Show coming to you live. I am out here in Fort Collins, baby. Big game tonight, actually. Wyoming and Colorado State. I'm out here doing some freelance work for CBS Sports, which anytime I get to be around the game of college football, it is a total treat. Getting in here today, I'm staying at this Hilton Hotel, and this morning I got in really late last night. And I got up this morning, and there's all this chatter outside my window. And I'm like, what is going on out there? There's people, like, you can tell there's like a cadence, right? A formation is lined up outside as I look down over to, it's kind of like an industrial area behind the hotel. And lo and behold, it's the Colorado State football team. They were out there like doing some kind of warm up, maybe over here before a meeting or a walkthrough. And I was like, why would the whole team be out here doing this? Because you stay at a hotel, right? College football teams, even when you're playing at home in a big game, major programs, even when I was at Richmond, we would stay at a hotel off campus the night before a game because you basically want to get everybody away from the distractions. There are enough distractions around your team when they're playing at home, just without changing where you're going to stay. So staying at a hotel can eliminate a lot of those distractions. One of those this morning, maybe for the Colorado State football team, was some man peering out his window. I didn't even have a robe on, but don't worry, I had my jammies on. And I was looking down, and I was like, hey, what's going on? So I noticed they were like doing like the 1, 2, 3. They were like limbering up. And then I figured out, knowing this, because when I was a freshman at Richmond, obviously I didn't play. We would do, like, freshmen would have to do all kinds of stuff just to kind of get you up and get you moving around, the freshmen that weren't going to play. And I counted like 50 some guys, 45. So I figured this is probably freshmen or walk-ons or guys who basically are starting to get some kind of workout. And at least that was my theory. But it's kind of cold out this morning. So I was surprised I didn't see them at like an indoor facility or something. Maybe there were guys that were in trouble. I have no idea. Not starting rumors. But that's how I got up this morning. Hope you got up and had a great day and had a chance to listen to Cam. This rivalry, I won't, not bore you, but I won't get too into Colorado State and Wyoming. So it's the 125th year of the border war tonight. And so 125 years of that. For me, we are coming up we're 1 week away, the anniversary of Mike Tyson being in my life for 38 years. November 22nd, 1986 is when he won the WBA title. Or what was it? Let me make sure I got this right. It was the WBC title. Scotty, when I do that, you can still see me, right? Let's wait for Scotty.
Yes.
There he is, Swingler. All right. I'll go away, and then I'm going to bring you back in a second. All right. All right, so I got Scotty right where I want him, which is perfect. Also, of course, we want to thank Slovakia, because I got away from myself. I'm not used to being out here on the road doing this. But honestly, look forward to this is a way that we'll be doing stuff now, especially the basketball season has started, and I got a game. I got a couple games coming up here, so we'll be doing this through December, and then probably a lot more in January, February, March. So Mike Tyson, 38 years, right? It's been in my life. And I was 9 years old when he beat Trevor Berbick for the WBC title. And at that point in time, there were when you're a young guy like me back then, and then the way that the news got to us, right? Like you would hear, even me living outside of Philadelphia, you started to hear about this guy, this boxer who was like, it was like a myth, it was a rumor. And then you see him, and he absolutely destroys Trevor Berbick. I mean, I don't remember being up watching the fight, but I remember seeing highlights. And it was even hard to see highlights then because a lot of these matches were pay-per-view. So even an opportunity to see Trevor Berbick, just like this gigantic man, have no control over his body as he wanted to get back up. When Tyson had ultimately knocked him out for good in the TKO. And what round? Let's see. Sorry, you have to look at me that way when I pull up like that. It was a TKO. Doesn't say. Oh yeah, in the second round, with 2:35 left in the second round. So imagine that, right? So he beat him in 6 minutes pretty much, and that was to me like sort of a life-changing experience where I mean I growing up. I want to say I remember where I was for almost every Tyson title fight, or even some later in his career that weren't title fights. So this is a guy who was so in my life for such a long time, and then he became this dude that he would tell you he was a bad guy. He did terrible things, even when obviously the rape accusation that ultimately became a conviction in Indianapolis. He told Jim Gray, he said, "Hey, Mr. Gray, I didn't do this. I didn't rape this woman, but I have done several other things, right, that have been just as bad, if not worse. So I'm right where, I'm probably right where I'm supposed to be." And it didn't end there. I mean, Mike Tyson has received this amazing amount of grace from society because of how vulnerable he has been. This is a guy who years ago, we were just waiting on the news that he would have been pronounced dead or something awful would have happened. I mean, that's where we were going. And, he was like sober, found sobriety. This is like around 2010, 2011. Even when he was in, The Hangover, he was still like in a really bad way, life-wise. And he's very open about that, drugs and alcohol. So he found sobriety. And then he's not like, look, I'm sober. Like, he's not totally sober because he talks openly about, at least like my kind of sober. He talks openly about mushrooms and a lot of marijuana. And so, but still, like, his life has totally changed. He's like obviously like got this spirit coming through him, and people love to see Mike Tyson. Like, even like someone like my mom who knew all the trouble he was causing and trouble he was in. Like, people just love to see. I don't want to say everyone, because some of his behavior in the past has been abhorrent. And remember, now he did pay his debt to society, but certain people may have not forgiven him, and that's totally understandable. But a lot of people have, and that's a really interesting commentary on society, because this is a guy, again, I keep saying this is a guy, but he was a dead man walking after he was trouble wherever he walked. And his career ended unceremoniously. He hasn't fought since 2005. Now he is 58 years old. Let's get to the fight at hand. And by the way, anybody that doesn't know, that didn't grow up watching Mike Tyson, like, the baddest man on the planet stuff is true. That's why I'm sitting here talking about him 38 years later. That's why there's an amazing amount of interest to see this 58-year-old man fight. I don't know, by the way, I can't think of an athlete who has performed at such a high level, an elite level, that has been in our lives, now in competition for so long. This is now the body of work. I mean, and his career, his fight career goes back more than, the 38 years I remember. He had been boxing professionally, I think, for 2 years prior to that. So let's say 40 years as a pro at what he does. I don't know that anybody's spanned that time. Now, of course, he's been out of it, but I guess the ability to command this type of attention and this type of payday, he's going to make $20 million for this fight. Jake Paul is slated to make $40 million. And again, back to the fight tonight, Mike Tyson is an underdog. Again, hasn't fought since 2005. And even then, it wasn't something that was, we were all excited. By the way, I am that person that I drink the Mike Tyson juice every single time. And what I mean by that is, like, I feel like he can win tonight. I still, and this is, we call this delusions of grandeur, right? Because I still have, or euphoric recall. That's what we call it in addiction, euphoric recall. I still have in my mind that memory of Mike Tyson walking into the ring and beating Michael Spinks in like 60, 90 seconds, right? Like, really, that's the memory that I have. That euphoria that event brought me has me a prisoner of that moment for the rest of my life. And look, it wasn't just that fight. He did damage. He dispatched guys very early in fights. And you can go Google it, YouTube it, whatever you want to do. ESPN's been doing a great job of running some of his greatest hits leading up to this fight. And it is amazing. I mean, he would have like his fist would just detonate somebody's face. And it was amazing. So obviously that's the interest of Mike Tyson. For me, it's not like, I don't think he's going to bite Jake Paul's ear tonight. I'm just hoping he kicks his ass. That's the Mike Tyson that I look forward to seeing. There was a time when people were so captured and it was so alluring how much of a disaster he was. Like, I don't see that right now. I see that as people want to see him succeed. I believe that, as much as that might be an unpopular opinion to have. I think more people, let me move this down a little bit, a lot of headroom. I think more people think that Mike Tyson, let's go back. You want to see my jeans on the couch. There you go. More people, I'll move them. There you go. So more people are rooting for him to do well, a lot more than are rooting for him to lose or to do something crazy or are just going to stay away. Again, I think his vulnerability has brought a lot of folks back under the tent. When someone can admit to all their faults and not try to explain them away, just admit to them, it is something that is really it's disarming. I mean, it's something that's brought a lot of people back. So tonight's fight, Jake Paul 10-1. That's his record. He's fought a lot of MMA, former MMA guys or current MMA guys, and a lot of like newcomers into the world of boxing. Paul is scheduled or slated to make $40 million. And I have a story I can tell you about Jake Paul that is a pretty interesting source, pretty interesting deal. So Van Lathan, but right now I'm aggregating from the Bill Simmons podcast. Van Lathan, who I love, was talking to Simmons, and he was talking about Mike Tyson fighting Jake Paul. And Van boxes at a gym in LA, like trains there to get in shape. And, because he's Van Lathan, he knows like everybody out there in LA, having worked at TMZ and now he's at the Ringer. So Van said there was a professional boxer in there. And this was, he didn't name the boxer, the pro boxer, but this was a gym where Jake Paul trained. And this professional boxer was kind of like, dude, I just want to kill this guy. I want to get in the ring with Jake Paul and destroy him. And he kind of made that known. And eventually this guy ended up sparring with Jake Paul. And Jake Paul would come in there with like his whole like entourage. And that's just how Jake Paul rolls. That's his whole thing and whatever. So this guy, obviously his resentment and disdain for Jake Paul and everything he represents continued to evolve. Till finally this is again a pro boxer, a guy who's been boxing since he's 13. Not Jake Paul, this other guy, this heavyweight. And, pictures of this guy boxing when he's like 12, right? That's what Van Lathan said. And he gets in the ring with Jake Paul, and Jake Paul destroys him. And I like Van Lathan's one of those dudes I just trust. He was there. It's a firsthand commentary on the deal. And I think that is why, as it always goes back to Vegas, right, that Jake Paul is a favorite. Mike Tyson, if you want to bet on him, is plus 160. All I want to do is bet on Mike Tyson. But I think if I bet on Mike Tyson, he's going to lose. My betting on him has nothing to do with it, or maybe it does. No, but I am going to be rooting so hard for Mike Tyson that I don't need to pour any gasoline onto the fire. I'm super pumped. I love Mike Tyson. I love the aura of Mike Tyson. I think I love that he was just one of those. He was just such a badass when I was a kid, and we saw some of that last night. Now, Scotty, join me here, please. There he is, Swingler, back in the home office. So, Scotty, last night at the weigh-in, Jake Paul does some sort of army crawl towards Mike Tyson, and in doing so, I mean, we've all seen the video by now, but in doing so, he puts his hand, his foot steps on Mike Tyson's foot as he starts to come up to do like the fight pose nose to nose. And Tyson, it's like that millisecond where he was like, I can't, I really believe, I don't know that he even wanted to do it. I think he was like, Mike Tyson can't allow this, right? Now we're
Yeah.
in pure speculation land, right? But I
Sure.
believe like there was a second where he was like, no, I can't. It's almost like that. And Tyson will talk about this, that prison mentality. Like you walk into the room, you find the biggest guy there and you try to kick his ass because that's how you survive. Like there was no way he could allow that. Now you, Scotty Swingler, you think that was fake.
I told you I'm 50-50 on it, Pete. I don't want to commit hardcore one side or the other, you know. Tyson said himself it was because Paul stepped on his foot and it hurt, and so he reacted by, you know, popping him back. I saw some people on Twitter wanted to make it a race thing, but I don't think I want to go there.
We're not going
there. But dude, like, I think that's what's going to be hard about this
By the
fight.
way, why is that a race then?
Because he was crawling at him. You know, that can be misread the wrong direction.
Okay.
So, but anyway, I think the hard thing about this fight tonight, depending on how it goes, and it's the same with that weigh-in drama, is depending on how it goes, you are never going to convince all of America that it's not scripted. Like there are some people who are just going to believe these guys are getting paid to put on a good show and to act for the cameras and make their bag. And, you know, that's not a crazy conspiracy theory, by the way.
No, like, not at all. So here's the question. How old are you?
I'm 32.
32. Wow. You get your whole life ahead of you, pal.
I hope so.
Dad, this is it. It's all in front of you, Scotty.
Alrighty. Okay.
So, but so you are from, you're very familiar with Jake Paul. More so than I think people my age or even a little below are. You know, people in their late 30s, early 40s, not quite as in touch with him as someone like you. Not that you followed him or you were like, you know, a subscriber to his YouTube
I was going to say
page.
I'm a lot less familiar than even a lot of people my age, though, because because his content and the way he got famous is not something I consume.
No, and it's not something that I think you or I endorse. He's another guy who I think has like sort of received a second round of grace in a way because like there was kind of a lot of crappy stuff that went on there, but like we're not here to litigate that. But it's all fake, right? Like the whole thing is like drummed up,
right?
His whole deal, like it's supposedly real life, but it's not. It's like the wrestling of YouTube kind of,
right?
You know, it's like how can I like top the last thing I did, and you know this is. See, with Tyson, a lot of it was crazy train wreck stuff, right? That I witnessed, like my generation. And it was real, as crazy as it was. You know, like, sure, he knew how to sell a fight. And there was a lot of stuff, like even like when he was like the quote unquote baddest man on the planet, but like they were worried he was going to lose. Like he came out of prison, he wasn't the same. And I remember there were rumors they gave Lennox Lewis $4 million just to stay away so he didn't have to fight him. So he could keep fighting bums like Bruce Seldon and Andrew Galata. So he could continue, not Andrew Galata, Francois Botha. So he could continue just to win and kind of lather up at a prison and ramp up to a big payday with Lennox Lewis. So it's this clash of two worlds almost. And I'm going to, don't worry, I'm not lumping you in Jake Paul world, but like, you know, there really is these two different experiences tonight that are colliding, because I think that your point, that's why I wanted to talk with you about it on the air, is a very good one. Like, there's a lot of people that are like, come on, dude, I'm not buying this. And I'm surprised that more people around my age or older, they're not tapped into that. I have not heard as much like this is fake, because at the end of the day, I mean, I'm sitting here right now with looking at odds on my betting odds.
Right.
So like, and look, this would not be the first boxing fight to have all kinds of chicanery attached to it.
Well, but that's why I said it kind of depends on how the fight goes tonight, right? Like Tyson comes out and knocks Paul out in 20 seconds. That's not scripted. Like that's Mike Tyson going back to being Iron Mike, right? But you know, if it goes the distance and it looks like they're running around each other and Paul's running away, and then, you know, Paul lands a shot and Tyson lands a shot and they both look exhausted, and we go to the judges, everybody's going to be saying those guys mailed it in and got their bag. Like that's going to be the narrative. That's why I really hope regardless of who wins, I don't want it to go to a decision. Like I want someone to put someone else on the mat and let's call it. Like that's what I want to see, you know. And I was going to say one of the things about my generation. So I came into adulthood with what I would say were the last two real stars in boxing, which was Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. That was me coming into adulthood, was being aware of them. But otherwise, like my generation just writ large is not into the boxing like generations before were. Like I told you this last week. I knew who Mike Tyson was because I had Punch Out when I was a kid. Like that was my familiarity with Mike Tyson. He was the final boss, right? Like most of my generation, if you asked about boxing, we could say Ali, Foreman, Tyson, Mayweather, and beyond that, we're pretty uneducated, honestly. So I kind of love that we're all going to at least remember this Tyson fight.
Yeah, and we're all going to kind of dive back into this world for one evening. And
right.
It's interesting that boxing has, you know, and I guess like we know why, right? Because MMA, because of all the
UFC is with my peers is easily that's the preference. Yeah.
And it really sort of it even piggybacked on boxing because the thing about boxing, right? If you're walking down the street and or you're driving and there's on the side of the road, there's two guys fighting each other. Like you've got my attention. Like that's as basic as it gets.
That's human instinct.
Yes.
I'm going to see Gladiator 2 next week because it is human instinct to watch that crap.
Yes. And so it's playing out in real time around you. Yeah, and you mentioned it, like UFC just they took all of the padding off of it or just, you know, just completely stripped it down and it's bare bones like the two guys on the street almost now. And, you know, I don't know if that's it or because of the management of a lot of these boxers, it just hasn't gone well. And it was so phony and there was so much bullshit going on behind the scenes for so long that they had to get away from that, you know, the Don Kings and those real shadowy figures that were around boxing.
Well, and I think boxing could come back, but it needs a star. And to have a star, it needs a good story. And we just haven't had that. I told you the last boxing match I remember watching was when Conor McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather. Like that. And
that
again,
was 2017 or 2018.
It was a long time ago, right? And it was the crossover appeal, the intrigue of that UFC fighter against this undefeated, you know, legend of boxing. So I mean, you're right. I think you're spot on with your analysis there.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll pay some bills. I'm going to come back, talk about a couple more things, some football stuff, and then, of course, it is Friday. So we got all in, baby. Corey Dickman is back. By the way, my Eagles won last night. Saquon Barkley. I mean, God, it's a shame, man. Giants fans, you guys must be really kicking yourselves. I watched the game on the plane. By the way, hats off to American Airlines. Like they must have a deal with the NFL. I can figure this out if I spend 5 seconds researching it. But I just like you get on the plane, you turn on your free Wi-Fi entertainment, and the first icon you see is Amazon Thursday Night Football. You know, the logo, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, right? Almost similar to the thumbnail we made on yesterday's segment about the game, which is a must listen. Still, it's evergreen, even though we picked the game. Matt Davis picked it wrong, by the way. All right, we'll be back on the other side of the break. Thanks to Crawford Austin Properties, of course, Slovaceks. Cannot forget about D1, Daniel Stark Injury Lawyer, Socorro Family Ford. And we talk a little bit about First National Bank of Central Texas with Corey in our last segment. Dan Ingham didn't make it out to, this week in person, but we'll have him back in studio next week. For now, we'll step aside. Coming right back. The Pete Sousa Show, powered by the Rogue Media Network, marches on after this.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. That's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
All is right with the basketball world. God's gift to the game of basketball, the Boston Celtics are back in the NBA Finals, baby. I don't think the Mavs did anything special. They played well enough to win and win pretty good. You know what I mean? I thought the Celtics didn't show up to play at all, and maybe if they showed some fight in the second half, they would have lost by 15 or so. Is he in the Red Sox Team Hall of Fame?
He is also in the Red Sox Hall of Fame.
Something about this guy being in the Team Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I did. So,
Deserved, man.
Which seems like it fits.
Sports.
Okay, we are back. The Pete Sousa Show, powered by the Rogue Media Network. Checking out one thing. We got Corey coming up in the last segment with all-in bets. I do want to check out the Baylor number. And, I mean, guys, seriously, we had it here yesterday. If you were watching the Pete Sousa Show yesterday, we legit broke news. We told you that Garrett Green was going to play, right? When we told you he was going to play, the line was at 2.5. Now, the line, you can't see this, but I can. It is 1. So Garrett Green and the availability of Garrett Green, as Neil Brown put it yesterday, that and I'm sure America, I mean, that's what it is, people getting word and then wagering on that and moving the line now down to 1. So it goes from 2.5 points to 1 point. And, we had a little inkling, a little source around Morgantown that gave us the wink wink that he was going to play, and it was pretty much certain. And I think that, like, this is smoke and mirrors now by Neil Brown. Like, he's available, he's going to play, and he's probably going to play the whole game. And and Dave Aranda's not going to be fooled, although you do have to be ready for Marchioli, Nico, which is a great name. And remember, this is a good West Virginia team. Like, riddle me this, right? West Virginia is on the year, they are 5-4. Yeah. But they're 4-2 in the Big 12. And they could still, we mentioned it yesterday, make the Big 12 title game. That's a scary proposition for the rest of the conference. Like, if that were to happen, Brett Yormark would not be pumped. I can promise you that. I don't think anybody would be. The Big 12 championship, of course, on December 7th. So that Baylor game, as we come down the stretch, remember, you still watch our interview. It's up there with Blake Blackmar yesterday. I had no idea about the meat mafia, but boy, I was not disappointed when I heard that story. That was absolutely amazing. I love college football stuff like that, like conspiracy theories and crazy blogs. And that's kind of all in the stew, right? That makes it what it is, as long as we kind of keep it healthy like that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about college football and the reporting of it. And So today, like I'm traveling, I'm not at home, and I'm usually over at Rogue. Like actually in the studio at this point in time, like prepping for my show, and in doing all that, like I don't really take in much other like sports media, which is fine, I guess. But there's some really good stuff out there, and the Pat McAfee show is like, I had it on today, and first of all, you should watch the Pete Sousa show, right? But the Pat McAfee show is and it's really after my own heart. Like, we can all sit here and come up with wild theories and hunches and hot takes based on nothing. And sometimes that's what you do. I mean, we're fans. You got to have an opinion. Sometimes the gray area is way bigger than people care to acknowledge. But truly, I can say, like, if I'm given an opinion, which is the way it should be across all mediums, but if I'm giving you an opinion, it's genuine. It's what I believe in. I try to keep most of the stuff I'm telling you here and almost anywhere in life based on my experience, because or what I've heard from someone who knows better than me and is close to that situation, because all the other stuff is just noise, really. Like when I said the thing about Garrett Green the other day, I said it because I heard something from somebody I trust. I will not make like a wild commitment like that that's based on nothing. And that's not to say that everybody else does, but a lot of times there's a lot of smoke out there that a lot of opinions and takes and stuff are maybe drummed up a little bit. And I don't even know what it's like to be in that pressure cooker where, you're on First Take every morning. You kind of you got to have something. That's part of the deal. And that is, again, like, barbershop, you're at the bar, like that's what makes sports fun. We can argue and have opinions, but I think like I always get frustrated when somebody gives you an overwhelming guarantee that's based on absolutely nothing. Like if you are going to tell me that this team is going to 1,000% they're going to lose tomorrow, I know they're going to lose. Like you better know that the quarterback was out till 5 a.m. into the morning, because if that's just based on what you think is going to happen, it's not real. It's not. And that's why even the best handicappers like Corey Dickman, they struggle once in a while. Talking to Corey in a little bit. Anyways, back to Pat McAfee. There is pomp and circumstance that come with that show, but at the end of the day, like you're not going to go anywhere else. And honestly, I long to. I think this could be what this show becomes someday. The more games I do with ESPN, I just got my first hoops game. It's going to be December. Xavier at TCU. Big 12, Big East battle, which, by the way, this is not intentional. But what is there any more perfect of an opportunity for a kid that grew up watching the Big East than to do a Xavier and now has his bread buttered by the Big 12 to do Xavier TCU? I don't think so. So I'm pumped about that. But the more and more I do basketball games, like on site at arenas, I would love to do something, like the Pat McAfee show. Like he's got game day on Friday. So him and Nick Saban are sitting there. And this goes back to the gold mine that is that show. It's Pat McAfee and it's Nick Saban, and they're talking ball on the field at Sanford Stadium in Georgia for like 60 minutes, it felt like. You won't get there. You won't get that anywhere else. And like, it's Pat McAfee too. Like you have to understand, like there's a lot of, like I said, pomp, circumstance, excitement, whatever. The guy's genuine. The guy's positive. And he played in the NFL. He was one of the best kickers in the NFL. And he was amazing at college in West Virginia. And he's obviously got a lot of really good relationships in football. Look, if you're me and you were like, I wasn't football adjacent. I was considered on the team, but I couldn't play because of my heart. They kept me on scholarship. But I have the most amazing relationships with people from so many different walks of life, some in pro football, some in pro football scouting, some in real estate, some, doing whatever. And like those are such incredible bonds because they're through the game of football, right? They're teammates of mine. Could you imagine somebody like Pat McAfee, the wealth of relationships he has? Now, of course, like there are a lot of football players who have a lot of amazing relationships, but the ability to articulate and have the talent that McAfee has and to convey it in such a manner that is interesting and compelling is something that is extremely unique. But when you put all that together and the understanding that, hey, at the end of the day, football is football. And if I'm going to be with a guy like Nick Saban for 60 minutes, like I'm just going to listen to Nick Saban and talk to him about it. I'm not going to be, Pat McAfee is not the expert. Certainly when he's around Nick Saban, he understands that completely. And some of the things that Nick Saban was saying, we talked about, I'm in Colorado State. I'm in Colorado State. I'm in Fort Collins for a Colorado State football game tonight, Colorado and Wyoming, 125th anniversary of the border war. I'm here working for CBS. And there was, the Colorado State football team is staying at this hotel because obviously you want to eliminate distractions before the game, staying at a Hilton close to campus. And or close to the stadium. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. I don't think there's a lot of Wyoming fans that are on their way to the Hilton right now because I said that or arranging prank phone calls. But it's clear that they're staying at the hotel to eliminate distractions. Like Nick Saban told a quick story this morning, which they were talking about bigger games as you get down the season, home and away, LSU, Alabama, that rivalry, like the visiting team, like when Alabama went into Baton Rouge and Tiger Stadium and absolutely blew the doors off of LSU. That's sort of a surprise because the game's in Baton Rouge. And Nick Saban countered a little bit. He said, look, when you're a coach at a big-time program, sometimes from a logistical standpoint, you want to be on the road, right? And this goes back to Baylor. It's terrifying that they're playing at West Virginia. It is. I mean, Blake Blackmar told us that yesterday. He did a great job of describing it. Again, you can watch the whole interview. It's up now on the Pete Sousa channel. And but Nick Saban talked about the fact that, look, I had to meet with recruits all day on a Friday before a game because they're all in town, right? He had a Nick at noon thing, but I'd heard that he did, which is always amazing. He at 12:30, if he's meeting with when he was meeting, let's say with Gary Danielson and Vern Lundquist before a huge game in the SEC that was going to be on CBS. That interview time on Friday from 12 to 12:30 always ended promptly at 12:30 because Saban would go over to this thing at noon. Remember, this is a Friday before a game called Nick at Noon, where he would speak about football to supporters of the Alabama Crimson Tide, mostly female. And it was called Nick at Noon, and he would talk for a little while, and they would answer questions. And he said he loved doing it, but his mind was all over the place because he had a game on Friday. And then after that Nick at Noon, you go and you talk to all these recruits, all the recruits that are in town. And he said that, and this is just so you know, when you look at your life, right, and you feel like, and this is me talking to myself, oh my God, I just got dressed and now I got to rush over here and I just got here on time. Oh my gosh, will I ever be able to not have so much going on and be there on time? It's dude, this is Nick Saban. He talked about it. He said, I would be so tied up in so many different things that I would barely get dressed in time for walkthrough on the Friday before a game because all of the commitments I had at home on a Friday. You're on the road. It's not even close to that. I mean, you are with your team in your bubble. Sure, there's some media commitments and there's some talks you got to, give to your team and stuff. But you really are tunnel vision on your opponent. And as we get into the the latter stages of the season, nothing is going to compare to going in there for Baylor and playing a 3 o'clock game or a 4 o'clock game at West Virginia. The sun will probably go down. I don't know why, but I'm hung up on this. Just bear with me, and I apologize if I'm driving you crazy. The sun will go down probably around, I don't know. Let's look it up, actually, just for S's and giggles, okay? Just hang in there with me. So the game is in Morgantown. You're starting to learn that I'm the slowest. Okay, what do you got? You got it? I can't hear you, Scotty. You're off. I can't hear you. Let me look it up. I mean, God.
Now you can.
Now I can. By the way, Scotty just made a new song. You're going to hear that soon.
Don't share that. Did you just steal my?
People love to hear you, Scotty. That's all I'm saying, bro.
Did I hear you say, "Please bear with me"? I just wanted to.
Well, that's why. Please bear with me, podcast.
I just wanted to bring that in. In. We're bearing with you while you look up.
Don't be humble about your
sunset time.
Don't be humble. All right, so, oh boy, this isn't good news for people there. All right, so conditions tomorrow: cloudy, high of 53. Good news is low of 41. So, but at kickoff, it should be relatively sunny in Morgantown. I'm looking at it right now, the hour by hour. It'll be in the low 50s and around 5:03. And that is 5:03 local time. So you're talking, okay, so you'll probably get 2 hours of sunlight. So you'll only be playing an hour in the pitch black. So that's good. All right. I know I'm driving you crazy with that, but that's how I feel about that. So hopefully that gives Baylor a little bit of a better chance. But, hey, they're going to be ready. The thing about Morgantown, and again, I keep saying Blake talked about it a little bit, they're they're the Dallas Cowboys of that state. Like West Virginia, like there's no other ticket in town. Everyone, I've done several basketball games in Morgantown, and that arena seats 14,000, and you're hard pressed to find it not filled up on every night. The only time that I've ever had a situation where I did a game last year, it was actually Baylor, West Virginia, and it was snowing during the day. So the crowd was kind of light. It was late in the year. But, man, it's always packed there. People always come to see them play. So it's going to be a hostile environment. All right, speaking of hostility, Corey Dickman. Don't have any for him because all he's got for you is winners. Corey Dickman's coming up next. All in bets. It is for Football Friday, baby. You are watching the Pete Sousa Show on the Rogue Media Network, presented by Slovaceks. Corey Dickman coming up with his picks.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me, and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
You are here with your shoot first point guard, Corey Dickman.
Also, if you're not creating new fans in a small market, then you're not creating that base of people to go to games and pay for merchandise and pay for stuff and concessions at the Moda Center and yada yada.
Yeah, let's talk draft. That's the only thing we have to look forward to.
The only thing we have to look forward to.
That's what I will teach my son. You will teach your daughter as Blazers fans. It's like, look, the two most exciting times of the year for us are the draft lottery and the draft itself. Like, here we are. This is our thing. Give me some memories and thoughts. I know you had mentioned the first time you had met Bill. What were some of those first memories that came back when you heard the news?
Sports.
There it is. All in bets coming at you. With good news, we're going to make you some money. Corey Dickman is back again this week.
Yeah.
Benjamin Bets, it was called. Now it's all in bets. It's still Benjamin Bets to me because Corey's on the dollar bill, baby.
I'm on the dollar bill. They put me on there.
All right, let's recap.
Reprinted. Okay, recap. Am I recapping? Or are you going to recap for me?
No, you're recapping.
Oh, I'm recapping. Gotcha. All right, Pete. This is how we do it. So we have some losses. We might have last week. But like we say, we come here, we're going to talk about it. Now, we still went 2-1 in college. Yeah. We went 1-1 in the NFL, and then we did miss the mortgage. However,
I heard about that, by the way.
It was well, we'll go through it here. But before we get started, Pete, I think when we know we're trending in the right direction is when our wins, they're massive wins. We're not sweating these games out at all. The losses always come down to just these last minute or just unlucky fourth quarters. And I think that says we're trending in the right direction. If I go 3-0, but they all were like last second stuff, I don't know if I feel as good as 2-1, but we just completely, go in the right direction on the wins and we're close on the losses. That makes sense.
The mortgage bet was brutal. You needed 4 points with all this time and never got it.
Oh, it was just so brutal. Stupid Aaron Rodgers. So, okay, let's recap. College. We had Alabama minus 2.5 going to LSU. You gave me the stink eye. You were like, I don't know. Bama won by 30. It wasn't even close. They slaughtered LSU because that was their winning in, Pete. Yep. Now they just got to beat the bad teams. They're in the playoff, like I said.
That was a great call by you.
Great call. And then, of course, I don't even know why we called this like a wager anymore on this team because it's more just like what it is, right? What's the old saying? Like you can say taxes, people dying, and UCLA covers the spread, right? Those are the things that are just guarantees in life. UCLA goes and wins the game. They just go win. They just go win. So again, we weren't sweating that at all. And then I want half credit. I tried to contact FanDuel on this game, Pete, and it didn't happen. You were very suspect of me picking BYU in the Utah game. I told you it was going to be close because these are two rivals in a very close proximity in the wild state of Utah. And I said, what did I say? I wish I had this clip from Scotty. I said BYU will cover the 2.5 with a game-winning field goal. I had the game-winning field goal right.
2.5.
It just wasn't 2.5. Now, it would have been if they had converted on that 2-point, when it was 21-19, BYU's going for 2 to tie. They miss it, and I knew at that point I was sunk. I knew at that point it was over.
Yeah.
And so, anyway, BYU still wins, but it did not cover. We go to the NFL. The Saints, the new coach theory clearly still works. I think you were a little uneasy with this pick against Atlanta. The Saints were getting 3.5 points, Pete, plus 3.5, and they go win the game by 3. And Younghoe Koo, a fellow Korean, I am half Korean, so I claim Younghoe Koo, he should have been released. He missed so many field goals in that game, but it was good because we won the bet, so that was awesome. The Vikings,
and by the way, inside too.
Inside, you cannot. And Koo, that's a division game, so he's kicked in that dome many times
for sure.
He should be completely, and he's an awesome field goal kicker. Just had a bad day. The Vikings, this one just really sucked the life out of me because they are a much better team than the Jaguars. This game started like 3-0. The Jaguars score, so it's 7-3 Jags, which I'm like, shoot, we need the Vikings to cover this, by 6.5. If you had told me, Pete, the Jaguars were not going to score again, if you said, Corey, they're only going to put up 7 points, I would have told you, dude, let's put more money on this. I would have done a halftime bet for more money on that 6.5. The Vikings, just 3 picks by Darnold, 2. Well, really, all of them were like near the red zone or in the red zone. 2 of them were like on the 10-yard line, like just brutal. Sam Darnold just killed it. And yet the Vikings still had a chance to cover this spread. They missed a 2-point conversion, or they were all field goals. Sorry, 4 field goals. They win by 5. It was embarrassing. They almost covered this by just a terrible offensive performance.
Yes.
So I know that was a loss, but goodness, it shouldn't have been. And then we go to the mortgage, which if you're on the street right now, if you're in a cardboard box, you can blame me. Cam's Patriots, we didn't pick them outright or pick the game. We just said under 41 points.
Yep.
That Patriot defense or Caleb Williams' ineptness, maybe the offensive coordinator who's now fired for the Bears, they put up 3 points. The Patriots did their part, put up 19, still was under 41. By a mile, it was under 41 points, which is what we had. And then the one that's the backbreaker. The backbreaker was this over 41.5 Arizona playing the Jets. Just awful, Pete. It was 31-6 going into the fourth quarter, right? So let's do math. How many points is that?
That's 37.
That's 37. We needed 4 points in the whole fourth quarter.
I got a text from my man, Chris Northington, Nordo. He was so pumped about the mortgage,
Yeah. He was going to make his mortgage. I feel terrible for their family right now. They're out on the street. Sorry, Chris. It should have hit, and the score stayed 31-6. We didn't get a cheapy Jets touchdown. We didn't get another touchdown from.
By the way, you don't
Cardinals.
have to worry about Chris. You got to worry about Taina. That's
let's
his
worry
wife.
about Taina. Yeah, and Rodgers, he was in. I mean, Adams had a terrible game. Garrett Wilson didn't play very well. The Jets are just a mess. But like 31-6, I would have thrown more money on that But anyway, so. Enough with the recap. That's where we ended last week. Overall records 15-8-1 in college, so still doing incredibly well there. Mortgage 4-2, so we're still we're way ahead there still. And then 11-2, 11 wins, 12 losses, and just straight up
11 and wait, hold on, 11
and 12.
Yeah.
Did I mean it? I didn't.
You said 11 and 2. Yes, you did. You know, you said
11 and 12. Sorry, but we'll get above that here this week. So,
all right, let's get on.
Are we ready?
Let's do it. I'm
Okay.
actually pretty pumped. Come
All
on.
right, here we go. Game of the week in college. What is it, Pete? You tell me, and then I'll tell you what I have.
I mean, I'm going to say something Big 12. So just what do you got?
Why do you always say something Big 12?
Yeah.
Was Colorado Tech, was that the game of the week last week?
It was for me. I mean, you would probably say, I like Utah, Colorado this week, but
Utah, Colorado.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can give a prediction there. I did not pick that game. Number 6, Tennessee traveling to Georgia.
Yeah, that is the game of the week.
If Georgia loses, Pete, are they done? Are they out?
Yes.
They're out. They're done.
Yes.
Georgia, like how could they can't be done? So
you can't have 3 losses and go to the play. There's no way, even if you're in the SEC and even if you're Georgia.
The Volunteers traveling to Athens. I don't know who's going to win, but I tell you, Pete, there's going to be more than 47.5 points scored in this game. They are going to.
I have 48.5, just so you know.
You have 48.5.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take 48.5. That's fine. That's a little more sketchy.
Well, I mean, honestly, but it means that the bettors are with you. Obviously,
they are. They're going up. You got a team that Georgia can put up points. Their backs against the wall. This isn't going to be a defensive battle. They're the score over 48.5. We'll take your line there, Pete.
Okay.
Give me the over. Then I hesitate going back to this but I look at it and you tell me what I'm missing here, Pete.
Okay.
The Kansas Jayhawks traveling to BYU.
Yeah.
BYU favored by 2.5. Is this a trap? I want to take BYU. What am I missing here?
Well, Kansas is a house of fire right now, and they're running the ball so well.
Okay.
That and they're very talented. This was a team that was a top 20 team coming into the season, and for whatever reason, it took them a while, but they have found their stride.
Ooh. And
so they're a dangerous opponent to play. I feel like now with the number continues to go down. It was 3 yesterday. Now it's 2.5. And look at it this way. Vegas, right? You get 2.5 points for just being the road team. So it's like, is this a pick 'em?
Is this a pick 'em? Now I'm scared.
Yeah. But let's go with it.
Let's go with it, baby.
Yeah.
BYU Cougs. Utah needs something to cheer for. They're going to win this game by a field goal. BYU minus 2.5. Give me the Cougars.
All right. By the way, Kansas is it's become the sexy underdog pick of the week to the point where it's almost it's almost flopped. Like BYU, it's BYU again is a smart play.
Yeah, whenever that is totally, and just in sports in general, right? When too many people start getting on the underdog, you give way too much bulletin board material for the favorite team there, because then all of a sudden they're not the favorite anymore, right? Because they're too much praise on the underdog. And then, Pete, is there a question? I think we need to start doing this segment of which 2 college games am I going to pick, and then UCLA. Because, again, they're until they're a favorite in one of these games, I'm going to keep riding them. Again, I've used the analogy of the craps table, right? If you're going to Vegas, you're shooting craps. If there's a shooter, if you're rolling the dice and you're hot, people flock to that table because it's something about the dice and the momentum and all of the stuff plays into it. So UCLA plus
on the road
against an old Pac-12 foe, the Washington Huskies. This is not the Washington Huskies team, Pete, that went to the title game. This team is on life support. UCLA traveling up to Washington. 4.5 points. So UCLA still doesn't even have to win this game.
See, this is also, I worry about your family too, because it's 8:00. Lauren might want to do something on a Saturday night. And all you're going to be doing is trying to watch Fox.
And that's fine, because she has her UCLA jersey now. I have my UCLA jersey. My son Ellis has his UCLA jersey. We're UCLA people now. So we don't mind staying up until midnight watching this game. UCLA plus 4.5. And you know what? Maybe take them outright. If you're noticing the trends, for the sake of the record, I'm not going to, but UCLA plus 4.5.
Okay.
We got to keep riding them, Pete.
All right. So we got our college wrapped up, moved to NFL.
All right. NFL. Just because I love Cam Stewart, host of the Cam Show and Baylor Locked On, all the things, Rams at Patriots.
Yeah.
I think Drake May is the guy. He is playing so well right now. I don't like to talk about my fantasy team a lot, although I do very well in fantasy. I have a quarterback problem right now. Guess who I'm playing this week? I'm streaming Drake May. Pats plus 4.5. Rams at Pats. They're gonna win the game. The Patriots are gonna win this game, but I'll take Pats plus 4.5. You're gonna give me 4.5.
By the way, I'm gonna give you 5 because
you're giving me 5. It's already at 5.
Yeah, that's what the number is right now.
I watched this Rams team against the Seahawks. Wasn't impressed. The Seahawks gave them the game. We played like poop, and that was a miracle that they even won that game by 6 because of that stupid game-winning touchdown. And then last week, not performing. So Give me the Patriots plus 4.5, Pete. That feels like a lock to me.
All right, Patriots plus 4.5.
All right. Now we're traveling. Atlanta. Pete, I can't read my handwriting. Who are they playing here? Who is Atlanta
They're playing the Broncos.
The Broncos. I was like, what does Braun mean? They're playing Bronny James.
Yeah.
Atlanta and Broncos minus 2.5. They let a division game just slip through their fingers, and they could have given the Chiefs their first loss of the season. They squandered it. The field goal gets blocked. It was terrible. The Broncos come back this week, and they get the W. Minus 2.5. They win this game by 3 in altitude.
So you're sort of telling me that the parties for Kirk Cousins, it's slowing down.
It's slowing down. Dude, Pete, Kirk is a guy that comes out the gate strong, and then he starts to taper off as it goes. That's just who he is, right? And we love I love a good Kirk Cousins, but he falters here at Denver. Denver's a team. Like Knicks is playing well. They can win this game by 2.5. They want to have a comeback here after the debacle last week.
By the way, Kirk Cousins is 36 years old.
He's 36.
Keep that in mind.
I'm telling you, I mentioned last week on the show. I think my wife would, if Kirk wasn't married, I don't know. All right, ready for the mortgage? Ready for redemption time? I wish we need a graphic, Scotty. Redemption. Cincinnati traveling to the Chargers. Much has been made about this Bengals game this week, Pete, of like this is if they don't win this, they're out.
Yeah,
kind of deal, right?
but they're raying now.
They're rallying.
Right? Yeah.
And Joe Burrow, my goodness, him and Chase are just on another level right now. Last week, Chase had 3 touchdowns, just crazy. The Chargers under Harbaugh, they're a different Chargers team. This isn't the one from 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So they're good. The defense is the top defense in the NFL. But the Bengals are back against the wall. And whenever you can get a good team, or at least a team that has a good quarterback and a good receiving core with a back against the wall, and they're underdogs, let's throw them in a tease, baby. So they're at plus 1.5. We're getting them at plus 6.5 on our 2-team teaser here for the mortgage. Plus 6.5, Bengals. Like, they're probably just going to win the game. But plus 6.5 gives us some cushion for a weird ending to the game, right?
Yes.
So plus 6.5, Bengals. Then I try to stay away, but there's something I feel it with this game. I don't know why. The Seahawks, my Hawks, traveling to the Niners. We have been getting our teeth kicked in by these Niners for the last few years. It's time for redemption. We're going to get this win because we're going to keep it interesting.
Get the win.
We're going to get the win, but this is why this is the mortgage bet, Pete, because we're not making bets here. These are closer to sure things. So Seahawks are going to get the win in San Francisco. But for the mortgage and the tease, we're going to get the Seahawks at plus 11.5. So many points, just in case I'm wrong that they lose the game. 11.5 points gives us a ton of cushion here. Because, again, we are what, Pete? We are just paying the mortgage. So we're not trying to get risky here with this stuff.
Well, we are getting risky because we're taking a quarterback who's got 11 touchdowns and 10 interceptions.
Hey, Gino, we're getting DK back this week.
Okay.
And JSN. He's on another level. He's playing really well. Gino just don't turn over the ball, Gino. That's been Gino's thing for 3 years. Just don't turn over the ball, man. Yeah. He looks like a JV quarterback getting called up to varsity, and like he's running around like he doesn't know what he's doing half the time. Gino, just like take a breath, Gino. Hand the ball off to Walker
and keep it under 11 points.
Man, keep it under 11. Gino will be fine.
All right.
Pete, don't worry about Gino. Don't worry about Gino. I may be petitioning for Gino to maybe take a back seat, but for at least one more game, he'll be out there. So leading the league in passing.
Yeah,
there's that.
2,600 yards, pretty much.
There you go, Geno Smith. So that's it, Pete. Those are the picks. All in bets, formerly known Benjamin Bets. Maybe we'll bring it back.
What'd you think of the graphic I put up on the thumbnail last week?
It looked incredible. No, it's good. It's good, Pete. It drives. It makes me want to put more money on the games based on your thumbnail that you put on there.
All right, so you're going to be back next week first of all, it's called accountability.
It's accountability. Accountability. We're still doing really well. Now when we don't go perfect, I'm like, oh man, I got to go talk about a loss we had. So, that when you're at that point, you're cooking. So we're excited. We're going to go. Good luck this weekend. Be safe.
You know what's funny? I'm not going to do that. So Dan Ingham couldn't make it this week for his segment. So I told him, hey, well, that's no problem. I'll just put your name on a segment. We'll see you back here in person next week.
Yeah.
It's too risky to put his name on this segment because he's First National Bank of Central Texas. They don't call it gambling over there.
No, they don't call it gambling. But didn't Dan, he picked Atlanta last week?
He did.
what was that? And then our lovely producer Scotty, he said real big on Indiana, and I said in this room, Michigan. Now Michigan didn't win, but they covered the 14.5 points, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, we can get subs and we can do this or that, but I don't know if I'd trust other people. I'd be really careful.
Corey Dickman is cooking, folks. We'll see you back here next week with accountability, more picks, and probably more money. Thanks, Corey.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. That's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
I mean, yeah, a new coach comes in, they're going to turn the roster. I think that's just we've got all these transfer portal stats and what Dion did and what Fritz has done. I mean, that's the deal, man. That's the game that's being played nowadays.
Maybe a little bit unknown at quarterback. I mean, unknown to the rest of the world, but he dove into the portal and got a guy who is super, super athletic.
South Dakota State's really good. Give us a little bit of breakdown about what they can do and what Oklahoma State needs to be worried about.
But look at that form right there. I need to say nothing else about this because I found one.
It is Matt Mosley, and it's the Obstructed View podcast, Rogue Media Network. I think they're learning that there's really no wonderful view of me. See, I feel like they think this feed's going to be really wonderful.
There must have been, no BS, like 20 scouts, 15 to 20 NBA scouts there to see him, and he was top 5.
When your old number wasn't working, I went through various channels to track you down. So unfortunately, you can never get away from me. But I'm happy to have you today.
Nah, thanks for having me. And we always family no matter where I'm at.
All is right with the basketball world. God's gift to the game of basketball, the Boston Celtics are back in the NBA Finals, baby. I don't think the Mavs did anything special. They played well enough to win and win pretty good. You know what I mean? Yeah. I thought the Celtics didn't show up to play at all, and maybe if they showed some fight in the second half, they would have lost by 15 or so. Is he in the Red Sox Team Hall of Fame?
He is also in the Red Sox Hall of Fame.
Something about this guy being in the Team Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it did. So,
deserved it, man.
Which seems like it fit.
Welcome to a special edition of the Doomsday Podcast. Look at this. We got one of the great golfers in the world, certainly one of the great pass rushers in NFL history.
But he also had a vision for you. And so it was like you had the best of both worlds, right? You had somebody on you early, and then you had somebody who was maybe more relaxed.
What were a couple of your biggest takeaways? The person you referred to that I spoke with, I've spoken to some personnel people and general management of the league to get some, independent, objective assessments of the players the Cowboys picked, and we'll go through that. Has the general manager changed at all in the draft room?
Nope, it's been the same since I was here the last time.
We are Rogue Media Sports.